right, and we are live. Oh, so almost switched to the wrong thing there. I have so many scenes in my OBS these days. Let's go to, here we go. Yay! Actually, let me
There
back
we
out a
go.
little bit. So, as we were just saying, it's okay to say Happy New Year because it's still the first 2 weeks of January and it's the first time I've
Yeah.
seen you in the new year. So, Happy New Year, Tim. So great to be
Happy New
starting
Year, David. Yeah.
2025 with you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the year ahead. And I've turned, I don't know what it is about the UK. We seem obsessed with filling our refrigerators full of cheese over the holiday period. So I've seen enough cheese to last me a lifetime, I think. So very glad to be back in the new year.
Oh, that's so funny. And maybe this is a very American thing. My fridge is full of meat.
Ah,
We had this, we for Christmas we wanted a brisket, so we had enough brisket to feed the 10 people that were there, and then we wanted ribs. There's a really great rib place nearby, so we had enough ribs to feed the 10 people there, and we like chicken wings. So we had enough chicken wings to feed 10 people there. So yeah, I have leftovers of meat for months. Very very American, I think. Um, but I want to say I was looking back over at our live streams from not just the last year, last few years, and I really do appreciate you the quality of the content that you bring, the discussion. You brought slides this week. It really elevates the stream, and we've done a lot of great stuff. And I'm so excited for 2025. This is going to be a great year.
absolutely. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy these. It's a
Yes.
really nice format, and it's great fun planning these out.
Yeah, and I've been hearing from some of the vendors that we support. They like seeing analysts like us, together. It's one thing to get Tim, it's one thing to get David, but for some reason they really enjoy. So I want to invite all our other analyst friends to come on sometime. The vendors like it when we're friends together.
Sounds good.
There's
Although I
no
have
doubt.
got a face for radio, I must admit.
No, 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 absolutely not. All right, so let's get into. You have two slides for us. What do you want to share with us about this first one? Strategic risk going into 2025.
Yeah, I guess for me, we look at things like, so every end of the year, analysts sort of talk about the trends to watch for the next year. And they're great, but the trends to watch have got the shelf life of a overripe banana. You know, that it's only as good as the next time the platform gets updated and the feature gets duplicated by a competitor. So we see all these trends and the features are no longer differentiating. But what tends to happen is over the longer term, there's elements of strategic risk that are introduced to the market. Some of those can be technology. So arguably, in the UC space, the last one was really the move from, well, time division multiplexing PBXs, phone systems that are old digital ones, to IP, and then up into the cloud for UCaaS. But more often than not, things like legislation and regulation, government action, and changing customer needs are the ones that really drive it forward. And oddly, competitive behavior is the one that really doesn't matter that much because, as I say, we see these features getting replicated across different platforms all the time. And quite frankly, if you look at everyone's UC solution, they're very similar. Um,
Yeah, the
so
catch
yeah,
up
so what I
game has
want
become very good. Everyone's good
it
at catch up.
has. Yeah, and if you think about, I mean, decades and decades ago, it used to be you get a software release every year, every 3 years, or something like that. But now it seems to be monthly, or in some cases weekly. If you look at some of the changes.
Even hardware is moving fast these days. I mean, not
Oh
as fast
yeah,
as software, but faster than it used to.
it is. Yeah. So you've got basically these change drivers, and if we go around the circle, about 2 or 3 o'clock there, we've got uncertainty about the future. So all these change drivers come along. People don't know what the future looks like. They dust out their crystal balls and they speak to analysts and say, "What do you think's happening?" But you've also got these set of organizational assumptions, and those might be the likes of competitors and senior execs that say, "Well, in my day, the market used to look like that or this," and it's very difficult to get over those assumptions that certain companies have about the market, and therefore what happens if there's an incongruence or a difference between what the company expects and what's happening in the market. That really does represent a degree of strategic risk. So say, for example, you're a vendor and a lot of your solutions and products are office based. The change drivers such as COVID and hybrid working becomes strategic risk for you, because your strategy is based on the wholesale return to the office. So if all you're doing is selling IP phones and on-premises PBXs, that is going to be a significant strategic risk to you. And
Yeah,
I
I
guess
was going
we've
to
seen
say
repercussions of that.
if all your products have the word huddle on them, and all of a sudden huddling becomes something that is literally illegal to do,
Yeah,
because you have to sit 6 feet away. You remember everyone was like, take the word huddle off of the products now. It was
that's
it
right.
was incongruence.
Absolutely. And just a very quick example, because I like photography. If you look at organizational assumptions, if you're Kodak back in the 1990s, you would have failed to understand how rapidly digital photography was evolving. And in fact, Kodak, a guy by the name of Steve Sasson, he actually invented the digital camera way back in 1975 for Kodak, but it was overlooked by all their senior executives and their management team. And actually, in 1989, Kodak appointed a CEO that wanted to go back to the roots of film and chemical business. And then, unfortunately, we can see what happened. They went Chapter 11, and now they have gone away from photo and film and are doing exactly what Fuji are doing, and they're in the business print market now. So there's a lot. I mean, the industry is littered with loads of people that bet wrong. So
Yeah.
I
And
guess it's up to you and me, David.
There was
Yes.
there was a Simon and Garfunkel song about it. I mean, everyone had their Kodachrome, right? But
Yeah.
but I remember that time. The feeling was, and I was a kid at the time, but I thought the CEO was right, because real pictures are on film. That digital stuff, it's not. I mean, it's cool and it's convenient and it's fun. I like electronics, but that's not real. That's not real photography. Come on, that's never going to
Exactly.
replace film photography. We need our
Yeah.
dark rooms with the chemicals. But
And
thinking back now, how dumb is that?
well, yeah, but we do get blindsided by technology. So the idea here is that hopefully you've got competitive intelligence professionals within your organization, but they also listen to what's going on in the market, hopefully to the likes of yourself and me to sort of say, hang on a minute, is this right? So we act as a bit of a devil's advocate, or a bit of an early warning signal to sort of say, look, there's some strategic risk. And maybe you ought to think about things a little bit differently.
I love the vibe. It's a little uncomfortable, but a lot of times vendors, they invite us out to our events, and you and I will sit next to each other, and they'll give us a presentation at the beginning, and they'll say, hey, here's our new product or a new feature. And I mean, generally the vendors know what they're doing. That's what they're paid to do. Generally they get it right, and we'll all go, ooh, I like that. That's smart. But once in a while they'll do something, and we'll all just sit around and look at each other like, I don't get this. And you see the panic on their faces. And it's because
Yeah.
they can't just write us off. They know that if we have that look on our face like, this doesn't make sense to us, they need to figure something out. So they do rely on that. But it's really a bad feeling. They're hosting us. We're out there. We want to say everything's great, but it's like, no one's gonna buy that. You need to rethink
Yeah. And
that.
that's usually a discussion we have behind the curtain, or say in private one-to-one sessions, and sort of say, does that really, is that really going to change the market? Is the market heading in that direction? So that's the sort of strategic risk, which is very different from trends to watch. Trends seem to be fleeting, but it's usually the change in buyer needs, a big change drivers, and also legislation. So in the next slide, I really wanted to sort of, I'll be interested in your take here, David, on what you feel have got the high degree of certainty and the highest impact in the market, really.
Yeah.
So I've put along here, if we go in the bottom left-hand corner, for example, there's something called the EPBD, which is the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive in the EU. And what it says here is we've got to be corporate responsible citizens, make sure that our buildings are well insulated, smart buildings, energy consumption. Now, that might have a repercussion in the video device market. You might find that vendors have, special standby modes. They may have a way of reducing power. They might integrate with smart buildings so that they turn things off. So I think that's it might have a low impact, but and we don't know what the degree of certainty is there. But if we go up to the top right-hand corner, there's things like MultiCaaS, the integration of unified communications and contact center, which is clearly, going to have a high impact, and we believe it's a high certainty in Omdia. In fact, we think that MultiCaaS represents a 53.9 billion market in 2028, because it's a market adjacency that UC vendors are moving into. And in fact, contact center vendors are also adding UC features into their products. So the combination of front office, back office is one of them. Obviously, hybrid and non-geographic working is having an impact. So people work from all around the globe. You're in the States, I'm in the UK, we're working together. And in fact, we used a non-geographic tool. We use Zoom Docs to come to decide what we're going to talk about today. So
it you shared this PowerPoint with me in a Zoom doc.
Say again, sorry, David?
Oh, you shared the PowerPoint with me in a Zoom doc. You didn't have to email it to me. I dragged it out of the Zoom doc and I put it up behind me.
Yeah, I just clicked and dragged the PowerPoint slide deck into the Zoom doc, and it just, there it was. I thought, oh, I like that. So there's different ways of working. And from a user perspective, you know, if I had any decision-making process in my business, I would probably say, this is the way I want to work. And therefore, you know, there's a change driver there. And then, of course, business mobile convergence, which is as we have more hybrid working, perhaps people are going to use their mobile phone as their single source of business contacts, and things like leveraging eSIM and solutions from Tango Networks or Cisco WebEx Go or Microsoft Teams Phone Mobile are sort of indicators there. So there's a few ideas there. There's some very unknown but high impactful things that I really worry about on the top left-hand side. And part of those are things like, you know, EU investigation into Microsoft Teams. They say it's not enough for Microsoft to unbundle.
Yes, I heard that.
Teams.
It's not enough. Yeah, so, they're proactive measures. We're being good. Stop being mad at us. Not good enough. We're still mad.
Yeah, and that could impose a fine on Microsoft up to 10% of their global annual revenue, or they might force all sorts of actions there. So
I'm wondering what they're going to force. Because if they got to give a choice, they can't just say, give us your money. They could say, give us a 10% or do this. But what is the or do this?
Yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. I mean, and the reason why I say it's not a trend is because the EU moves quite slowly on these things.
Yeah. But I know, yeah, there's lots Teams of competitors are saying, you know, get to it.
Yeah, but you know, that could be an interesting thing. I mean, the EU could turn around and say, we want to see greater interoperability, which will be really great for more of a competitive landscape in the UC market, and great for buyers because they'll have better choice.
They could make us take the Microsoft Copilot button off of our keyboards.
or the little Teams phone button on some of the devices, perhaps. Yeah. But there's other things as well, David. Net neutrality, for example, or Microsoft device ecosystem platform. Those are some areas that perhaps we can talk about on the remaining time that we got here.
Sure. Well, a few quick thoughts. I just want to say on the EPDBD thing. I agree with you. You know, it's a government thing, so it's going to happen slow and it's low impact. It's not, you know, the biggest thing on here. But it's interesting to me because at WebEx1 they were demoing, you know, all of their and they're not the only speaker bar company that does this. There's another one competitor up there that does it, but they have environmental sensors on there. So if that's connected to their network, and your Cisco's all about network, so the building becomes a smart building, and we know if there's not enough oxygen in one of the rooms, and we could have the air conditioning go on, or we could know if we're spending too much in air conditioning, we're cooling down these rooms and no one's in them, because we could see them, or we could have people counting on them. I don't know if we want to be seeing them, but however they work it out with security. Yeah, they know the air quality, they know the temperature, they know the lighting, they know all these environmental energy performance related things. If I was the WebEx marketing people right now, I'd be going, "Oh, I love that EPBD thing. That they're basically selling our stuff for us." So I think I think it's cool, and obviously, old hippie, I love that kind of stuff. So I'm excited about that, and I agree. But I'm sorry that it's on the, you know, less important, more boring corner of the thing. It's not on the sexy hot corner. The MDEP I thought was really interesting. The MDEP. Just because we always talk about how hard it is to get things certified for Teams. You know, it's like a months process. You send your device to them and they bang on it in the labs, and it's all this stuff. And my understanding of MDEP, it's sort of like if you use that set of, it's like an SDK, you know, kit. If you use that software when you're building your device, it checks off a lot of the certification stuff. So when you try to get certified, they're like, okay, you're 90% there already. So it'll make that a lot easier. And certification is really important.
That's right. So, I mean, it will have a significant impact for device manufacturers that want to have that Microsoft Teams certification, because as you rightly point out, it will reduce the time needed to bring Teams compatible devices to market. So what that will do is lower the barrier to entry for device manufacturers. But of course, what it has is this knock-on effect for established vendors that have already put a significant amount of time and effort differentiating themselves on a different platform. So there's a raft of vendors there that haven't used MDEP, have invested a lot of time into this ecosystem. And of course, this levels the playing field. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes it up. And of course, the more vendors you have in the market, the more competition, we could eventually see a race to the bottom on price, and people just having very homogenous video devices that are all MDEP certified. So that's the reason why I put it up there as significant impact.
Yeah. And I want to give Microsoft, all the credit for this. I'm really, really, unless they got me fooled again, they're doing a really good thing here. I love to beat up on Microsoft, but they're doing a really good thing here, not just for their vendor partners, but for the end users, because the stuff's going to work better. This isn't just certification check mark. This will make the stuff work better, because I did a little research. What they were relying on before, the predecessor for MDEP, it wasn't that good. It wasn't something that Microsoft can control. I think it was kind of like a Google-ish thing, and it's going away. So, if they didn't do something, they were going to have problems, and they could have relied on third-party integrations and whatever. But instead, they said, we're going to invest and we're going to develop this set of SDKs to fix the problem, and it is the right solution. So for once, I gotta say, great job, Microsoft. You got this right.
Yeah, and maybe this is a way of sort of opening up, sort of mitigating some of the fears the EU have got around anti-competitive sort of practices. So yeah, that it's an interesting one, and there was some concern over end users around security of Android, for example. And of course, there's so many different flavors of Android.
Yeah.
It did have some
tough.
issues for IT departments trying to upgrade security, administration, that sort of thing. So I think that's quite an interesting move there. I know that my colleague Prachi has done a lot of work on this and done a number of reports to sort of look at how this impacts the market.
Oh, can we take a minute to shout out Prachi, because she just put out a report for New Riva.
Yes. Yeah.
And we love New Riva here. I have a video I did with them, interviewed them and talked about their solution, which I'll link below. And then I see this report by Prachi, and it's amazing. It's great. I'll share it below as well in the replay. So just great job.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's great. And then of course, one area that interests me is bring your own meeting, because we've done a bit of research out there and asked thousands of enterprise customers, on average, how many meeting services do you have out there? And I think, although there is some consolidation, there's still a growing number of people that have 3 or more. I mean, there's a huge amount of people that have different platforms for different reasons. And of course, you can't say every room on the first floor is going to be Microsoft Teams certified. Every room on the second floor is going to be, WebEx certified. Everyone on the third floor is going to be Zoom certified. You don't really want to limit your rooms based on whoever's platform you're going to use. So
you just put in two bars. You put in a Zoom Teams bar and a Zoom Rooms bar and a Teams room bar, right?
You could do, or you could adopt a different
You hate that
version.
idea as much as I do, right?
Yeah, we'll just stack 3 video bars, one on top of the other. Yeah,
I see that
and 3
on LinkedIn.
controllers.
And people are happy with it. They say, "Hey, we just got our new room set up. Look at it." I'm like, "Why are there 2 bars?"
Yeah,
and they're like, "No, that's good." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's a problem."
Yeah, so we believe that there's going to be more of a move towards bring your own meeting. So if I'm going to bring my laptop into the meeting room anyway to take notes or to share screens, maybe it doesn't matter what platform I'm on, but I can leverage the resources in the room. So it might be, a big room, and I've got audio, I've got speakers in the ceiling, and I've got mics on the desk, and I've got video bars. But regardless of whoever's UC solution I'm using, I can take advantage of all the existing hardware that's in the room. And I guess this is like the Crestron approach. I know that they're very big in bring your own meeting.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a lot of people that are really sort of thinking, we work with multiple partners and suppliers and customers that have different platforms. And some people want to use their platform and sometimes they want to use our platform. Rather than taking your call at the desk, which is the path of least resistance to work between all of these, because you've got a webcam that plugs into your PC, maybe bring your own meeting is going to be one of those areas that will have significant impact in the market.
Yeah, this is definitely a significant trend, something the vendors are worrying about and trying to accommodate. Earlier, it's like September, October, I flew out to Norway and met with the Neat execs, and they spent a good amount of time talking to the analysts about what their strategy for BYOD should be. BYO, yeah, bring your own device should be. Because because the customers are asking for it. And I have mixed feelings about it because on the one hand, like I said before, I hate the two bars in the room. I mean, if we can't get a bar that runs everything, then yeah, my laptop runs everything. I'll run Zoom or Teams or WebEx on my laptop and plug that into it. That's fine. But on the other hand, Zoom has put so much development into Zoom rooms, and Teams has put so much development to Team rooms, and WebEx has put so much development to WebEx rooms. It's so much more than a laptop connected to your big screen. It's got the schedule on there. Instead of having this up there in between meetings, it'll have the next meetings up there. There's a touchpad, and you click, and it just joins it. Some of them have walk in and voice controlled or whatever, but it's a lot more than just the meeting on a big screen. Zoom Rooms is cool. It does stuff. It has digital signage as a part of it. And Teams and WebEx as well. I'm not singling out any of them. I like Room software. It makes a better experience. I want Room software on this. And you say, oh, you know what? We're just not going to use that. We're going to take a little dongle and plug my laptop into here and just run WebEx on my laptop or Zoom on my laptop. I feel like something's not right with that. I feel like we're missing out somehow, and it solves a problem. I love ease of use. I love the idea of people using their own stuff. There's a lot that I love about it, but we're still losing something with it.
We are. So maybe we just see a combination of bring your own meeting and specific rooms for internal meetings, for example. But, as analysts, we're invited to a lot of vendors, different platforms, and we're chopping and changing. I certainly couldn't take a day's worth of calls in the office because I would be just confined to my desk with my USB cam. I wouldn't be able to take any advantage of all the nice meeting rooms that we got in our London offices.
Yeah. So anything else we should get a little bit more into? The hybrid and non-geographic working, that's still shaking up. I keep hearing every day about another company that is saying, everyone get back to the office. And usually the response is overwhelmingly, loudly, vociferously, is that the right word? Negative. I think I might have used that word wrong, but it sounded good, vociferously.
Sounds fantastic. I like that.
Sound good? I'm going to find out what it means and use it correctly next time. But, every day on LinkedIn, this other company, what were some of the recent ones? I think, what was it,
well,
Amazon?
I know that Spotify put an advert out saying we're going to treat our employees as adults and not force them back in the office, which was I don't know whereabouts Spotify are based. I can imagine that on a great big hoarding on the side of the 101. I can imagine people driving down the highway and seeing that and thinking, yeah, why am I going to the offices? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was a great ad, and it makes it look like a cool company. And they could use some good press. It just recently came out that like the CEO of Spotify makes more money than all the musicians put together at all time or something like that. Yeah, there's a thing with Spotify, like you get 2 cents if you're like the top musician. You don't get anything from that. But that's another story. But the companies that Dave Michaels and Dave Danto, they had a great series about, I think it was Amazon, where they're saying this isn't a return to office. This is a soft firing. And it turned out, I saw a month later, it turned out they were right, because it turns out Amazon didn't have enough desks for all the people. It said everyone turned to the office, and people were saying, where do I sit? They didn't have enough. They were expecting them to quit and not come back. If you're expecting people to come back, you have desks for them. You have chairs for them.
We had that with the British government. One of our ministers said, right, I want all our civil servants to go back into Westminster. And they had they had to hire desks and chairs in the corridors because the mandate was everyone get back in, and they realized we haven't got enough space, so that quickly fell apart like a cheap suit.
Did you really
So
want them
yeah,
back?
yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, David, I mean, return to the office is interesting because if you're a large multinational global corporation, they don't say we're going to close down the UK, Germany, Rio, and all our operations and move everyone to one great big supreme headquarters. So they're not going to do that. So I can't understand what the problem is. And as we pointed out, we're not seeing we're seeing this interesting mix of asynchronous and synchronous working. So voice and video for when you want to meet face to face, and then the likes of Zoom Docs and Team Chat and Team Channels when you're working asynchronously. And that's a great way to work. I work with
It
colleagues in
is.
Australia, I work with colleagues in the US, all around the world. And we don't want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to take a call if we can help it. We'd much rather work asynchronously.
And I know we had this discussion over and over and again, but I really strongly believe, and maybe I want to believe this, maybe I am fooling myself, but it's not just that we're happier working remotely part time. We're more productive. I really think that. I don't think we're using that as an excuse. I want to stay home and be with my puppy, whatever, be with my cat, and be with my wife. I don't want to drive to the office, so I'm going to say I'm getting more work done. No, I really think people are getting more work done. I mean, obviously it depends, but I,
Well, the other thing as well, David, is if I want to disengage from my work, and it's all about employee engagement, I can be in the office, but I can have multiple cups of coffee. I can walk around the office talking to people. I can surf the net. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm being productive
yeah,
based
it
on my
just means you're
physical
there.
location, does it? Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting. I guess the other area as well is when we start looking at hybrid working is the need to use mobile devices more and more. So that then sort of speaks around business mobile convergence and having perhaps an eSIM card that allows you to take your work calls on your mobile phone without having to use an over-the-top application and connecting to Wi-Fi. It's one of those things that we think is going to be on the rise. And I think it's just a matter of time before a number of service providers start implementing that worldwide. I think we're going to see 2025 as being one of those pivotal moments where new carriers start implementing that.
Yeah, I'm well. One indication I've seen of that is my contacts at Zoom. When I'm talking about the Zoom docs, they're like, it works on mobile, right? They spend a lot of time getting it working on mobile, and it all works on mobile. Like the whiteboards within the Zoom docs, you can get them working on mobile. It's full functional, and they spend a lot of time on it. They don't expect it to just be, oh, a convenience. If I'm out somewhere and I want to show someone a Zoom doc, I can do it on my phone. Isn't that neat? They think people are going to be working with this, which is just what you were saying. And
Well,
I
and if I'm so, I was going
go.
to say, if I'm going into a meeting room, maybe I don't want to take my laptop because I don't know about you. If I have a hot desk and I take my laptop into a meeting room, I'm lucky if I get my desk back again, unless I
Uh,
really put a jacket down and make it known that I'm there. I'll lose my desk. So maybe I just want to go in with a phone and I can do all the um, reactions, maybe work on a Zoom doc, maybe interact with chat as a extension of my mobile phone as well. So there's a lot more thought given to hybrid working, but of course that does make a difference compared to, if we look back to the old days of telepresence, it was an amazing experience, fantastic high quality video. But as soon as you started sharing your screen or sharing content, the illusion was broken because you all
yeah.
had to stare down at a different screen. And then all people got was a view of my bald head. And that sort of didn't, um, that whole illusion and that whole experience was sort of gone. So, there's some interesting change drivers that have more of a longer term implication. And of course, vendors and of course, enterprise customers need to think of those.
Yep. Let's see. Anything else? I think we covered a lot of the highlights here. Um,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, bottom right, transition from ISDN to SIP. Of course, the great PSTN shut off happening in the UK. People are moving away from ISDN to SIP. We're not sure that that's going to have too much of a
I thought that
impact to
happened
the
20 years
market.
ago.
Say again, sorry.
I thought we did that 20 years ago.
Well, we haven't across Europe. So we have in the Netherlands. I think Germany have switched over. Spain have, and another company, other countries. Sorry, but when we switch over by the end of this year in the UK, we don't think there's going to be we don't think that there's going to be a huge shift and jump to the service providers that provide the new trunking to their platform. So we don't think that's going to be a huge impact. Right to disconnect's an interesting one. So there's some countries in the EU that say you can't contact me outside of working hours. So, the likes of Microsoft have got a delay button on emails and on Teams. Don't send this. You may not want to send this to your colleague in France because we need to comply with the right to disconnect. And you've got the option to delay sending a message until they're next online. And things like that, which make working in a global company difficult. But of course, if you can work asynchronously, then there's ways around it. So there's some interesting areas there that we're still monitoring and sort of thinking through what the implications are. But it's really good for companies and vendors to think through these sorts of exercises and say, well, that might impact us differently. If you are more of a hybrid UC vendor, like, I don't know, Avaya or Mitel or Alcatel-Lucent Enterprises, you might map these change drivers out differently. So yeah, or depending on what industry or market you're in as well. Healthcare might be very different to manufacturing. So, but it's a useful exercise to think through.
Absolutely, and I love the way you thought through that. This is why you're such a good analyst. I see something of like right to disconnect, and I just think about the effect on people and the fact that it's such a European thing that would never float in America. Your soul belongs to the company, and
or three companies,
or three companies, yeah, and how different lifestyles and everything. But as a UC analyst, what I should be thinking is this affects the features. What you said, this affects the feature set in our products. Those some of them have the send this message Monday morning thing. That feature is going to have to be prominent if it's already there, and if it's not there, that feature is going to have to be added, and we're all going to have to use to work with it because it's going to be the law. Assuming this happens, it's going to be the law. So,
well, it is. You can actually get a fine if you send an email out of working hours to a French employee, for example. So there's some really far-reaching implications here.
You can't put that all on the people. Our technology has to help with that. Because people, I don't want people getting fined because they just had an idea and wanted to email their boss or something or their employee. I want Microsoft and Zoom and whoever is designing the communication technology we're using to protect these people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So it's an interesting exercise to think through rather than just looking at, and we all love our trends to watch for the forthcoming year, but there are some long-term implications that you've got to get right and you've got to plan for. This is next horizon thinking, not just what's going to happen this year.
Well, that was awesome. Let's wrap it up. And it looks like there's a lot of cool stuff going to happen in 2025. And we have to show this to David Danto because we talked an entire show, half an hour, without one AI prediction or discussion. Am I wrong? I don't think we mentioned that.
You're right. And yes. If you think about it, if AI fades, if the technology is right, AI will fade into the background and it will be just a fantastic capability that will be built into everyone's UC platform.
Oh, that's so. I was thinking the same thing this weekend. The biggest trend a few years ago was Internet of Things, and we stopped talking about it not because it stopped being a trend, but because it became more than a trend. It just became the way the world is. Of course, I can control my vacuum cleaner and my doorknob, my doorbell, and my refrigerator from my phone. What kind of world could you not do that? Internet of Things. We didn't stop talking about it because it stopped being important. It just became the way. And I think what you're saying is AI. We're just going to stop talking about it. It's just going to be part of our world.
I hope so. And do you remember years and years ago, we started talking about WebRTC and what is it now? It's just the ability to do voice, video, and chat through a browser.
It's the way video works now, mostly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And thanks to our viewers for watching. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Oh, I always do. I need to set a button for the end. I got to find my goodbye button. All right, there it is. See you in a couple of weeks, Tim. See you later, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, David.